These are the answers to the Algebra Regents June 2016 multiple choice. So when we take a look at the question number one, the expression x to the fourth power minus 16 is equivalent to which of the following? Well, the correct answer is this third one. Here's why it's the third one. When you go to do FOIL, all right, you have to multiply the firsts, the outers, the inners, and the lasts. So we end up with x to the fourth minus 4x squared plus 4x squared minus 16. These two cancel out because these two are opposites. They add up to 0. So we end up with just the x to the fourth power minus 16, which is what we started with. If you go to do FOIL to the other three, you will not get this answer. In question number two, an expression of the fifth degree, all right, that means to the fifth power, is written with a leading coefficient. The leading coefficient is this green number. It's the number that's out in front of the first term and has a constant of 6. That's the plus 6 here. It's a number that's all by itself. Which expression is written correctly for these conditions? Well, it would be number 4. We have a 7 out front as a leading coefficient. We have a 5 gets to the fifth power, so that's the fifth degree, and we have the plus 6 all by itself. In question number 3, this one is sort of a pain in the butt question. All right, this one on the actual Regents would take you a long time to do. For which interval of time was the average rate of change the smallest? Well, what you need to do is you need to figure out your slope, all right, using the slope formula. Slope is the same thing as rate of change. So we want to use the slope formula. Unfortunately, because it's asking you which one is the smallest, you would have to do all 4 of these to determine which one is actually the smallest. So your x values are your time, that's your years. Remember when we did graphs, time was always at the bottom. So this is your x values. These are your y values. All right. So you plug those numbers into the formula here. You're going 2002 to 2004. So those are your x values. And we have, and in 2002, it is 11. We get that from the table. In 2004, it is 23. So we have to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You get 12 over 2, which is 6. For the other ones, you can see the work as well. And notice that we get an answer of 6 here, 8.5, 7, and 9.5. 6 is the smallest. Unfortunately, you would have to do all 4 of them to figure out the correct answer. In question number 4, what conclusion can be drawn from the scatter plot? I can see that the scatter plot is going up. And we're talking about, so as popcorn sales are increasing, soda sales are also increasing. Which conclusion is true? It would be choice number 2. There's a positive correlation means that it goes up. This one says no correlation. That would be dots randomly all over the place. Negative would be going down. Buying popcorn causes people to buy sodas. You can't determine that from the graph. In question number 5, the store sold 150 tickets total to the movie. All right. They sold children's tickets and they sold adult tickets. So when you go to look at the systems here, the 2 green ones have to be correct. All right, for the total number of tickets being sold. It wouldn't be 1,470 tickets. So you know 2 and 4 are not correct because of the 1,470. It says that a child's ticket costs $7.75 and adult costs $10.25. Notice that in choice number 3, they have those flip-flopped. All right, they have the A and the C numbers wrong. $10.25 for an adult, $7.75 for a child. And it totals 1,470, which is correct. So that would be choice number 1. In question number 6, which table represents a linear function? All right. Notice that where are they getting these letters from? The f of x, they're getting those from here. All right. They sort of do this multiple choice question a little bit different than normal. All right. So you could, if you wanted to, you could graph those points. All right. You could graph those points by doing a stat plot if you wanted to, and see where those points actually end up and see if they form a line. But the easier way to do this is just check out how they change from y value to y value to y value. Notice here in this correct answer, which is this first one, notice that we're adding by 7 each time. Because you're adding by the same number each time, that is going to form a nice straight line going up. It could be a nice straight line going down. If we were subtracting by 7 each time, that would still form a line. It would just be going down instead. But this one, notice that we're adding by 2, adding by 4, adding by 8. That would be more of a curved line. Same thing here, 3, 5, and 7. Same thing here, 6, 14, 6, 10, and 14. They have to, in order for it to be linear, it has to increase or decrease by the same amount each time. In question number 7, this one's a little bit tricky as well. All right. The acidity in swimming pools is considered normal if the average of the 3 pH readings is in between 7 and 7.8. If the first 2 readings are 7.2 and 7.6, which value, when we average those 3 numbers together, will result in an average rating of normal? So which one will give you the average of in between 7 and 7.8? Well, again, this is just trial and error. All right. I didn't show the wrong answers here, but the 7.3 is the correct answer. We have our 7.2 that we're getting from here. We have our 7.6 that we're getting from here. When we go to average them in, the way that you find an average is to add them all up, just like you find your grades. Add them all up and divide by how many there are. So that's what we're doing here. We're adding the 3 terms up. And we get 221. We have 3 of them. So divide by 3, you get 7.36. 7.36 is in between 7 and 7.8. So that would be considered normal and your answer. Remember, you could also put these values into your L1 and do stat calc 1 variable statistics. This is your mean, the X with the little line above it, if you didn't know how to find the average of something. In question number 8, Dan took 12.5 seconds to run the 100-meter dash. He calculated that time to be approximately what? Now, they are trying to trick you. All right, how they're trying to trick you, this 100-meter dash, that's just extra information that we don't need. It's there to confuse you. All that we're doing is converting 12.5 seconds into either minutes or hours. Well, 60 seconds is 1 minute. So we would have to take 12.5 and divide by 60. So that is 0.2083 minutes. Notice that some of these other answers don't even make any sense. All right. 12.5 seconds. Is 12.5 seconds the same exact thing as 750 minutes? Absolutely not. Is it half of an hour? No, that doesn't make any sense. All right. Is it 0.2 of an hour? No, that doesn't make any sense either. All right. 0.2 of an hour is like 10 minutes. All right. That doesn't make any sense. Question number 9. We're just solving this inequality. So we have to do the distributive property first, 5 times x, 5 times -4 to get the 5x minus 20. There's lots of different ways that you could do this. I chose to subtract 3x from both sides first, just to try and get that number all by itself. You could do it in a number of different ways. No matter which way you end up doing it, you get x is greater than or equal to 11. Remember, if you get this backwards answer like I did here, you do have to flip everything around, including the sign. So be very careful there. Remember, also, we didn't have it in this problem, but if you multiply or divide by a negative number, if this number right here was negative, we would have to flip the sign. It's not in this problem, but just telling you if there was. In question number 10, you need to do the distributive property first. All right, so multiply the number outside by the 2 things inside to get 3x squared minus 3. Now we're subtracting the 2 polynomials. We have a binomial minus a trinomial. Anytime that you have these type of questions, I like to change the subtracting question into an adding question. So we're going to change our minus sign to a plus sign and change all the signs in that second term. So then we want to line them up. All right, there's really a 1 in front of this x squared. So when we go to line them up, we have 3x squared plus -1x squared, which is 2x squared. We don't have an x term in the first binomial here, so it's nothing, plus 7x, which is plus 7x. And then we have -3 plus -10, which is -13, which is choice 2. In question number 11, the range. The range, remember, is your y value. Domain is your x, range is your y. Of this function is all real numbers. And so all that you have to do is graph it, and you want to look at the min. All right, the min here is -9. Remember, the range is your y value, so those go up and down. So our graph contains all of the points that are greater than or equal to -9. All right, because that's the lowest point and everything's up above it. Be careful. If they were asking you for the domain are your x values. Those go side to side. It would be all real x values, negative infinity to positive infinity. In question number 12, the zeros. Remember, zeros are your x-intercepts of the function are what? So I would just type this into your y equals and see where it crosses the x-axis. It crosses it here at -1 and here at 6. So that is choice 1. Super easy question there. In question number 13, in a sequence, the first term is 4. So that's why I have 4 here as my first term. And the common difference is 3. Now remember, common difference does not mean subtract. All right. Yes, I know that the word difference normally means a subtracting problem, but the common difference when we're talking about sequences, that's what you're adding by each time. All right. That's what it changes by each time. If it was negative, it would say the common difference is -3. But this time it says the common difference is +3. That means we're adding by 3 each time. Notice that that's what I have here. So we just keep on adding in by 3, adding by 3, adding by 3. We want the 5th term of the sequence. So the 5th term of the sequence, we'd have 4, 7, 10, 13, and 16 would be the 5th term. You could do it this way by writing the explicit form. I wouldn't do it that way. That's probably way too much work. In question number 14, the growth of a certain organism can be modeled by that equation, where C of t is the total number of cells and t is hours. Which function is approximately equivalent to? So equal to C of t. Well, graph this one, just type it into your y. I know it says C of t, but you're going to type it into your y and graph it. Graph these other ones and find the match. The one that matches this is choice number 3. You'll get the same exact curve. A lot of times you can find the answers to the questions just by graphing them. In question number 15, so what percent of the 21 to 40 age group was for the candidate? So 21 to 40. Do we care anything about 41 to 60? No. Do we care anything about over 60? No. All we care about was for the 21 to 40. So there's 30 people that voted for this person or for this, whatever we're voting for. And it's out of 50 because we have to figure out how many total 21 to 40 people there are. So we got to add up 30 plus 12 plus 8. The total is 50. The way that you find your percent is to do the part over the total. So 30 over 50, top divided by bottom is 0.6. We need to make it into a percent, move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So we get 60%, which is choice 4. In question number 16, which equation and ordered pair represent the correct vertex form? Again, all that you're going to do is graph it and see which one matches. All right. See which one is the correct answer. So type this into your y equals, you end up with this graph. When you're looking at these numbers over here, we're looking for the vertex. All right. The vertex is right here because notice that we have the same 2 equations. So you do have to find the min, which is the vertex. So second and calc and do your min. It's 6, -29, not -6. -6, -29 would be over in here. All right. So it is choice 3. Again, you'd have to type these into your y equals and see which one matches. Question number 17, a student invests $500 for 3 years into a savings account that earns 4% interest per year. No further deposits or withdrawals are made. Which statement does not yield the correct balance in the account at the end of 3 years? Well, what I would do in this one, you could figure it out from there. All right. But what I would do is I would type in all these and see what the different numbers are. Notice that we get 3 of the same exact answers. If you type these in, you get 3 of the same exact answers. This answer is the one that's different. All right. That's one sort of sneaky way, but the initial investment is $500. All right. We would be subtracting. This doesn't make any sense. All right. You're looking for the one that does not yield the correct balance. So the one that is not equal to the correct thing. In a savings account, we would have to add. All right. We would have to add. So be very careful here. All right. This one would be wrong because it is subtracting. in a savings account, we always add because your total amount of money is going up. All right. In number 18, the line represented by the equation, this shares a point with the points in the table. All right. Shares a solution. So the solution for this system. So what I would do is I would type these into the table. All right. Type them into your L1 and L2, do stat calc linear regression, and you get this equation. For this one, you need to rearrange for y equals. So getting the y all by itself, minus 2x, divide by 4s, you get this equation. Graph both of those on the same graph and find the intersection point. All right, where those two lines cross is right here at 6, 5.4. So rearrange and graph, type it into your L1 and L2 to figure out your equation, graph it, find the intersection point. In question number 19, what is the solution of this equation? So there are a couple different ways that you could do this one. I think the easiest way is to graph it and look at the zeros. Well, if we were going to graph it, we need it set equal to 0 to graph it. So we would have to subtract 28 from both sides. So we get this equation. So we graph it and we look at the zeros. It crosses here at -6 and here at +2. That's probably the easiest way to do this one. You could try and solve it. You could use the quadratic formula, -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4a squared, 4ac all over 2a. Or we could solve it by doing, so we're solving it here. We're doing reverse FOIL and figuring out the solution there. And I think it's easiest to graph it. In question number 20, we have a dot plot. So I would type those values into my L1. All right, type it into your L1 and then make sure that you realize that you have 2 zeros. So you got to type in 0 and 0. We have 2 1s. All right, we have 2 1s. And then we have 5 2s. And then we have 5 3s. We have 3 4s, 2 5s, and a 6. Type it into your stat calc, one variable statistics. And when you do that, you see that it says which statement about the data is not true. You see that the median is 3, all right? You see that the interquartile range is 2. That would be Q3 minus Q1. 4 minus 2 is 2, so that's correct. The data contains no outliers. There's no outliers here. All that data is pretty compact. The one thing that's wrong is that it says that the mean is 3. When you do the calculation, the mean is actually 2.82 or 2.842, blah, blah, blah. Where you got to be careful is you do need to type in the zeros. All right. Those count as values. So be very, very careful. In question number 21, what is the largest integer for which the value of f of x will be greater than the value of g of x? So graph them and see. All right. What is the largest integer x for the value of this that will be greater than this? Well, 3x is going to be greater after this point. All right, they cross right here. Notice that this one, all right, this f of x is higher, 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 higher. But then when they cross right here, all of a sudden 3 to the x, which is this g of x, all right, this g of x is then higher from that point on. So after that intersection point, all right, you'd have to do second in calc and find the intersection point. That intersection point, the x value is 9.8 approximately. So anything after that is going to be higher. So what is the largest for which the value of this one, the red one, is higher? It would be 9, because 9 would be approximately right here. All right. And that is where the last integer, where the red graph is higher than the blue graph. In question number 22, the graphs of the functions that and that are drawn. All right. So I would type them into my y equals and graph it. Remember, you do the absolute value by hitting second and 0, which is the catalog, ABS. Which statement about these is true? Well, when you graph it, the solution to the f of x equals the g of x is 1. Do they cross at x equals 1? Yes, they do. All right, their intersection point is 1, 3. So your x value is 1 right there. A store sells frozen yogurt sundaes. The function C of W represents the cost in dollars of a sundae weighing W ounces. An appropriate domain for the function would be. So it wouldn't be integers because you can't have negative ounces. Rational numbers. Rational numbers can be negative as well. That doesn't make any sense. You can't have weight being negative of a Sunday. Non-negative integers. Well, it wouldn't be integers only, because can you have a half of an ounce? Sure, you can. All right. Sundays, when you scoop out ice cream from a tub, all right, it doesn't have to be exactly an ounce, exactly an ounce, exactly an ounce. It could be 1.5 ounces. It could be 1.25 ounces. It could be 3 2/3 ounces. All right. Or anything in between. So number 4 would make the most sense. Non-negative. It can't be negative, but it can be partial numbers. So number 24, Sarah was asked to solve this word problem. The product of 2 consecutive integers is 156. What are the integers? What type of equation should she use? Well, you would let x equal the first integer. You would let x plus 1 equal the next integer. It says product, so we want to multiply them together. When you do x times x, you get x squared. X times 1 is 1x, and that would equal 156. This is a quadratic, all right, because it has the x squared. Linear would look like this. We don't have linear because of the x squared. Exponential we would have to the x power. That doesn't make any sense, and we're not doing the absolute value there.